In the name of God, in whom we live and move and have our being. Amen. In my home as a child, it was Dad that made the tea in the morning. He would go downstairs to the kitchen whilst Mum snoozed in bed, returning to their bedroom armed with 2 cups of tea. This I took to be a universal practice, until as a teenager, a woman told me how she got up to make the tea for her husband. This was deeply shocking for me, an eye-opening revelation. It hadn't occurred to me that it might be different in another home. As children, what we take to be normal is just our parents' way of doing things. It's often the same with our religion, and it's the same with our Epiphany beliefs. 3 kings from Persian lands afar. They have names too: Balthazar, Melchior, Caspar. This we absorb from our school nativity plays and our church crib tableaus. Then we learn, in fact, there are no kings in the Gospel account. Wise men bring gifts, according to Matthew's Gospel. 3 gifts are mentioned, so 3 wise men. But kings? Names, crowns, one white, one black, one Asian. These are all wonderful additions to the story, revealing the significance of Christ's birth. Christians in southeast Turkey have a different legend. The area of Turkey is called Tur Abdin. It's where they still speak Aramaic, the language Jesus spoke. The area was once a flourishing Christian civilization with many monasteries and churches. Today, the cathedral city of Ha is a shadow of its former self. These Syriac Christians have their own legend about the wise men. 12 kings gathered at Ha, 12 kings from the east. A select 3 went on to Bethlehem, bearing gifts to the newborn Christ. A grateful Mary, Mother of God, gave them a piece of the baby's swaddling clothes. When these 3 kings returned to Ha, the holy baby wrap turned to gold. Awed by this miracle, the kings founded the great church which became the cathedral. It turns out they are not the only ones to claim that they were more than 3 wise men. Michael the Syrian, known as Michael the Great, names 11 kings. Dardandor, son of Artaban; Shuf, son of Gudfar; Arshak, son of Makduk; Zarwand, son of Warwadud. You get the idea. It's like a list from Lord of the Rings. I love the richness of the tradition surrounding the wise men. The 3 kings we are most familiar with represent the leaders of the world coming to worship the newborn king. Today we might say a king, a president, and a prime minister. And of course, at least one needs to be a woman. All of this, of course, is extrapolation from what the Gospel of Matthew gives us. And it's all wonderful. There is one key detail that is clear in Matthew's account. The Magi were foreigners. They come from their own country, and they do not know the Holy Scriptures that would have guided them directly to Bethlehem. So they go via Jerusalem to ask for directions. It's wonderful that none of the characters in the Christmas story are actually Christian. Most of them, of course, are Jewish. The wise men are from a different religious tradition altogether. Perhaps Zoroastrian priests from Persia, as some people believe. They are from a different religious tradition, but they are the ones who get it right and journey to Bethlehem, unlike the religious establishment in Jerusalem. Meeting Christ in the stranger, seeing Christ in the other, is a key part of our tradition. As you know, St. Benedict made it central to his rule on hospitality. With our tendency to be afraid of what is different, with our unconscious bias towards people who are like us, it is deeply important to nurture our ability to see Christ in the stranger. Living in a place like Hong Kong helps. Cities like Hong Kong are the crossroads of the world. London is the same, you may know. The wonderful diversity means that one way or another we are all part of a minority, and we have the opportunity to meet people from traditions very different to our own. This was my experience living in Hong Kong for some years. One of my favorite places in Hong Kong is a Christian center called Dao Fon Sang. It's a center for study, retreats, and dialogue. The buildings are wonderful traditional Chinese architecture. The chapel looks like a Chinese temple. The logo of the center is the ancient Chinese symbol for Christianity, a lotus flower with a cross. The lotus flower is the Buddhist symbol for enlightenment. The cross for Christians is the way to enlightenment. This place, Dao Fon Sang, was founded as a Christian mission for Buddhists by the Norwegian missionary Karl Reichelt. He arrived in China in 1903 and at that point had rather negative notions about non-Christian religions. But soon he developed an interest in Chinese religion and Buddhism in particular. He made many friends in Buddhist monasteries, and he founded Dao Fon Sang as a place where Buddhists could meet Christians in an atmosphere of friendship. The Chinese architecture was so Buddhist monks would feel at home in familiar surroundings. Reichelt's experience, and that of many Western missionaries, has been described as the conversion of the missionaries. The conversion of the missionaries. That doesn't mean they abandon their Christian faith to become Buddhists or Taoist. Not at all. But they were converted to a larger faith, a Christian vision which discovered that God is present and active in all cultures. And that was my experience in Hong Kong too. I was, of course, just one of the regular Anglican clergy, not some traditional missionary. But my faith and my view of God was deeply enriched through meeting people of different religions. Gifts from the East at the heart of Epiphany. Many of us have been blessed by gifts of wise men and women from the East. It's a common experience for Christians to learn more about their own tradition through encountering another tradition. Taoist insight about serving others, Buddhist insight about compassion, Zen insight about non-duality. These can teach us about service, compassion, and the nature of God in our Christian tradition. If you're still looking for a New Year's resolution, how about learning about a different belief system? Let me end with a story that captures these Epiphany revelations. A young man, an inquiring soul, went to a religious fair at the big exhibition centre where he lived. The vast range of the world's beliefs were represented, including the Bahula religion. The Bahula priest explained how the Messiah had come to Bahu in the 5th century and taught about the nature of God. Later in the day, our inquiring soul left the exhibition, overwhelmed by what he had seen and heard. As he walked away, he became angry with God. God, you are an exclusive God, sending your Messiah to a certain country in a certain century. What's wrong with my country and my time? Then God replied. God said, a temple is sacred to show that all places are sacred. A festival is holy to show that every day is holy. The Messiah is divine to show that all people are divine.